Mixing the mind and how to do it. Now, in a previous audio blog, I pointed out that one shortcut to practicing meditation is to piggyback on areas of your life where you already have achieved focus and concentration. Now, I found it in photography, in computer programming, and in video editing, and also writing things like this. But it could be anything, like playing chess, tying flies, doing crossword puzzles, and so on. Wherever you find yourself spending real time concentrating and focusing the mind, you already have some discipline if you have a hobby, such as one of these. Now, some people have asked me, how do we convert these disciplines that we already have into meditation practice? And the best part is that you don't have to do anything more to your schedule, but just approach anywhere that you already are concentrating just a little differently. Aside from photography, I did this mostly myself with computer programming, so I'm going to use that as my example. I slowly began to apply the basic techniques of mind training that I was learning to what I was doing on the computer all day long. For example, during my computer work, whenever I would catch myself in a distraction, that means whenever I popped out of whatever I was deeply involved in and found myself once again just outside my concentration zone and just looking around, it was then that I would attempt following the meditation technique. Now, these distractions could be as simple as a dog barking, or a phone call, or the doorbell, even an unwelcome thought or a daydream, and so on. Whenever my mind wandered, or whatever it took to startle me out of what I was busy concentrating on, the result was that I was suddenly distracted from what I had been focused on, and instantly was just there and fully awake in the moment. Now, I might have been irritated before I had this concept that I'm communicating here. I didn't want to be disturbed. But anyway, those distractions in my concentration were the only moments that I had during my workday to insert Dharma into that work. But there were a lot of them. And in those distractions, those little gaps or moments when I broke concentration, it was then I would become aware that I had been distracted from my work, and I would very gently bring my mind back to what I was doing and let my mind rest in that. I would pick up where I left off, but with a little bit more awareness. After all, in those moments of distraction, I had virtually nothing better to do with my time anyway. I was already at a complete stop. So whenever I found myself startled or popping out of whatever I was engrossed in, I took that opportunity to at least be aware that I had been distracted. I would bring my mind back to the task at hand and just let my mind rest in that awareness for a moment, just in that openness and gap, and then go back to work. And gradually I became more mindful of what I was concentrating on and slowly build a habit of being more aware. Those moments of letting the mind rest that came after a distraction were short. Perhaps they were more like, some of them like nanoseconds than something more enduring. But the total amount of actual practice time that I was doing off the cushion from these distractions added up. Pretty soon I was logging more total time off the cushion, doing off the cushion meditation, than I had been able to practice at any other times in my day, including those times spent on the cushion. By then, my meditation time on the cushion had become, and this is just my own problem, almost a kind of a joke. every time I headed for the cushion, it seemed like I put on airs, robes of expectation, of arrogance, and embarrassment over my past meditation failures. And then there were all my hopes and just generally being irritated. So I was getting some relief. The cushion was getting a much-needed supplement. And this new process of post-meditation practice was not something that I could measure in days or even months. It took me about something like 2 years of this kind of exploration before I really had it down to any useful degree. But it was useful, and the amazing part is that it actually worked, which translates to, perhaps for the first time in my many, many years of mind practice, I started to really like practice. Something that I had always devoutly wished for, to really like it. If there was one thing I was ashamed of and feared all those years, it was that I personally could not find all that much joy in just rote meditation practice. I knew that this wasn't the way it should be, but I was also powerless to bring joy to something that I had not been able just to find joy in. So there you have the general idea. If meditation doesn't come easily to you on the cushion, then take meditation to the path, to where you live, to where you already can focus and concentrate, and then try that. It takes almost no extra time, and you are utilizing moments that otherwise you would just have ignored. So let me briefly go over the basic concept once again. When you're doing something that naturally lends itself to focus and to concentration, begin to be aware when you break that concentration. As mentioned, it could be any interruption, like the phone rings, or you've got mail, etc. Whatever the cause, the result is that you popped out of your concentration groove, and there you are, just in the moment. Instead of being frustrated by the interruption, which is what I used to do, take advantage of it to be aware of your distraction, and with that awareness, bring your mind back to what you were doing and just rest gently in that awareness. And then start again. Each time you break concentration, go through the same actions of being more aware that you've been distracted, and then gently bring your mind back to what you're doing, what you're concentrating on, and let it rest there for a moment. Do this all day, every day when you can. If you remember to do this, you're logging meditation practice in real time. It adds up. And there's only one more point that I want to mention here. That is how to make whatever post-meditation practice you have into real Dharma practice. To do this, let me remind us how we got into this blog in the first place. It's for those of you who are having trouble keeping any kind of meditation practice going, or for those of you who are looking for a way into meditation that is less painful than starting at square one. It has only a single requirement, that in your life you have acquired one or more disciplines where you actually have to focus and concentrate the mind. Of course, you have to do it often enough for my suggestions to be effective. So let me review the steps so far. The first thing you need is skill. Find an area in your life that you have mastered, an area that requires real concentration and focus. It could be anything, but it must involve keeping your mind on it, and you must have developed some skill in this. For me, it was photography, or computer programming, video editing, but it could be almost anything. The point is that whatever you have mastered, you have already paid your dues, and you've acquired the habitual necessary, muscle memory skills in order to do it. Now, in traditional meditation, there's always an object to focus on, be it the breath, a pebble, a spot on the floor, or just nothing at all. In the method that I'm describing here, It is some kind of skill that involves focus and concentration that you've already acquired, and that skill will be the object of your meditation. It helps if this skill is something that you do all day long, or at least often. Otherwise, you'll never get in enough time for it to amount to anything. The second point is technique. When we are performing this skill, we have to take advantage and be aware of when we are distracted from concentrating. Just like we do when we're trying to practice meditation. We've got to be aware of when we are distracted from concentrating on the task at hand. When we pop out of our concentration. Now, anything can pull us out of our focus. And I've mentioned before, the doorbell, a phone call, and so on. And this has been covered in other audio blogs that I've done. When we are distracted from our task, whatever we're concentrating on, we need to remain aware of that fact and gently bring our mind back to the task and let the mind rest there for a moment as we pick up from where we left off. We do this again and again, every single time that we're knocked out of focus. I did it for a couple of years. That's the kind of time it takes, but it was effortless because I was just doing my job, making money at the same time. This essentially is what goes on in basic meditation, whether we are sitting on the cushion or performing any other task that we have taken as the object of meditation. The only step missing now is to somehow accrue some spiritual credit for our investment of time and energy. And this is very important. It's also relatively easy to do. And this is what we call, dedication or aspiration and dedication. So it remains for us to dedicate the merit of our every practice session or our work session, and it's very simple to do. Now, first of all, we should look at what is merit. Merit is whatever that is positive that we manage to accrue from the task that we set our mind to. When we sit on the cushion and meditate, it's whatever value or goodness we manage to generate. We could call it awareness by our meditation session. And I have never read that any action, any object of meditation, if done with the right intention and spirit, will not produce some merit. The Zen Buddhists, with their, books like Zen and the Art of Archery or Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, they've proved this. It may be that the merit that I produce from my practice is very, very small, but even that tiny amount can be dedicated. My point is that if we do any task with the right intent, some merit will accrue. And merit is non-denominational, meaning whether you are a Buddhist, a Christian, a Muslim, or whatever, your merit can be dedicated. So how do we dedicate the merit? I can't say for other spiritual disciplines, but I'll show here how the Buddhists dedicate merit, and then you can take it from there. For example, we might, with as pure intent as we are, say to ourselves something like this: I dedicate the merit of this work, or I dedicate the merit of this practice, however small it may be, to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, that they may benefit all sentient beings and bring each of them to greater awareness. End quote. Of course, you can vary the words, make them up infinitely, but the intent should be to benefit all beings and to help them become more aware. Of course, you can use your own religion, dedicate it to the saints, etc. You are taking what otherwise could be an ordinary activity and by dedication putting it to better use. So, in closing, let me share a little personal story with you. When I first started meditating, I didn't even have a cushion to sit on. Then my teacher, my Dharma teacher, a Tibetan Buddhist named Khenpo Kata Rinpoche, he's still my teacher today, 30 years later, gave my wife and I a small statue of the Buddha that he had blessed. I placed it in front of where I sat, and that became a little shrine. It meant a lot to me back then. I had, nothing. And as the years rolled by, my meditation area, the place where I sat, got fancier and fancier. So today I have a big collection with a little cushion on top, plus all my favorite Buddhist statues. I even have some hand-painted tankas hanging on my wall, and on and on. So folks, I know how to set the stage and to even add a little ambiance. I have a candle, a lotus light, even a miniature spotlight that shines just on my Dharma text. In other words, I have all the trappings of a successful meditator. But over time, my meditation area has collected more than just copper and brass. It is also now infested with my expectations, my hopes, as well as all of my fears, and you name it, anything connected to meditation. Sometimes it gets so bad that I can feel myself taking on airs the moment I approach the cushion. Something like Michael the meditator has entered the building. This does not in any way help my meditation. And my point is that while formal meditation on the cushion is important, if there are ways to muck it up, I'm going to find them. Sometimes, in addition to your practice on a cushion, using the same meditation technique, try some off-the-cushion post-meditation practice. You may find that this off-cushion meditation has less baggage connected to it because you've already learned how to focus and concentrate on whatever object or task you have in mind. And it's very important that you don't forget to dedicate the merit. I've got whole audio blogs just on that, which are worth listening to. The above described method is the one that I've used. I was surprised at how many tasks in my life I could incorporate as some form of Dharma practice. And like a pebble that's dropped into a still pond, the circles of Dharma practice grow. And the amount of practice time I'm able to do this way is way beyond what my on-the-cushion practice schedule will allow. There you have it.